Alright, I am back with another Destiny 2 video. I've been very light on videos lately, partially because of a health issue, partially because this is a largely Destiny focused channel and I don't have that much to say about Destiny right now. I'm not really clear on what to say on a given basis. I've long said that this is a game you can always talk about forever, but the current state of things, the current cadence of things, it's just, there's not that much to go on, like even more than usual. I was looking at player count today, and I wasn't going to do a whole player count video because I've probably done too many of those, but I believe this is the biggest player count drop in terms of percentage that we've ever seen. It's something like 64% of players down in the last 30 days. I think the previous record was like 62, usually after an expansion. It's like 40. So kind of as I expected, a lot of people just kind of use the final shape as like a hard stop, and some Vex focused episode is not really something that, grabbed them to come in. Average players are still good. It's still peaking at, 66,000, and final shape was obviously extremely high. So we're not in like all-time low territories, but it's not ideal. And one reason for this is like, I know people have been through this process many times. Like, this isn't really the first time this has happened to me over the years, and I know some other people found their moments of kind of drifting away during other eras of the game, which is perfectly understandable. For me this time, it's because there's a pretty sharp contrast between the game I am currently maining, the First Descendant, and Destiny 2. In terms of, I will never say that the First Descendant is a better game than Destiny 2. It's not even close in terms of if you're analyzing the overall scope of the games. It's also brand new, so obviously there's going to be a lot more stuff to do in that game than Destiny, but the reason that the First Descendant has hooked me and taken up, I'm about to hit 200 hours of this game, and I think it's only been out like not even 3 weeks yet, which is nuts. I don't know if I've ever put that much time into a game this quickly. And it's not because it's that amazing, it's because I believe it is crafted kind of looter shooter chases that are almost the best in the genre in terms of endgame stuff. Yes, the story is trash. The missions are very repetitive, but this is a game where I feel like I always have something to work toward and go for. And also a game where you can really feel your power investment and your power increases with your individual characters. Yes, there may be somewhat of a lack of stuff to do at endgame, but the main thing you're trying to do is push higher and higher into the top tier bosses. I have not even beaten all of them yet. They get kind of mechanically annoying to play with randoms at a certain point, so it's not just about power, but there is always something I'm working on, and that is usually a combination of investing in a specific character, like you pick a main or two to pump up, or you try to get a new character, or a specific gun. Same thing, you invest in a gun. Like, fully investing in a character or a gun is like a couple dozen hours by itself, given the materials you have to farm, given, the level of RNG it takes to get some of these things you're looking for. And then also you can kind of just build craft and experiment around with things. And there's always something to do. And whether that's farming currency for upgrades or farming actual pieces, trying out new characters. Like, I have unlocked, 7 or 8 Descendants, and I don't have, 5 or 6, but like, I've only really spent significant time with like maybe 3 or 4. So at any given time, if I'm getting bored with one character or one farm, I can stop and just move to another and have an entirely different play experience. And that is true to some extent with Destiny, but I would say that these classes are way more significantly different in terms of each other than, between Titan, Hunter, and Warlock, and there's only 3 of them. So you balance those, and that's kind of it. The problem with Destiny, and this has been a problem for a while now, I think, is it just feels like there's very little to work toward. They've essentially just eliminated the idea of making your character stronger in the traditional sense. Like, making your character stronger in terms of actual power level is just, it's not really a thing. Like, they've almost done away with power level entirely. Like, yeah, they did a new climb with the final shape, but all that is like, it's just allowing you to keep pace with new content, or be able to, I was plus 20 over Nightfalls last time, and now I'm going to got to get up to plus 20 again. There's not like you're not upgrading stats like in this game the way you would like really sink resources into, this is a Warframe like system, obviously, in the First Descendant. Upgrading your mods, upgrading your guns. You find a good roll of gun, certainly, and you masterwork it, which bumps its stats a little bit, but then you're kind of done. Like the chase is in just getting a gun with the roll you want, or now lately just crafting a gun with the roll you want, and then you're sort of done. So what Destiny's had to do is just sort of power creep these guns for a long time now, and every expansion or something, they're going to introduce a small handful of guns that are kind of must-haves, and they're just flat out better than the old weapons. Like that, in this case, take the Call, for instance, or now the Fire one that I've not heard the name of. Like, these rocket sidearms are very powerful. They're pretty new, so you want to get some interesting rolls on them. That's like the thing to chase, but it's like the only thing to chase. And I got, my crafted materials for the Call, in a week and a half, and that thing is done. And so it's just, you can run content again, and I would certainly say that the content itself is far better than the First Descendant content, which is often these little micro mission public event type things, at best something vaguely resembling a strike, but not as good. And then the boss fights, which I think are more challenging and interesting, but again, it's not a raid boss. You're not, even if you're supposed to communicate with your team, in this game you're not, and it can be somewhat frustrating, but the sense of progression is there in a way that I don't think Destiny has had for a very long time. And Destiny is good in terms of its long-term, live aspects with the amount of content they introduce, the story stuff they introduce, but like in terms of you as a character, as your three classes, there's very little to pursue. Like once in a while, if they do something fully new like Prismatic, that's kind of an interesting time period where you try to make a new powerful build out of different pieces. But it's also screwing up that. It's screwing up that kind of pursuit, as we can see with the exotic class item farm, where someone asked me on Twitter, they're like, oh, well, you're talking about your First Descendant drops at 20%, 10%, 6%, drop rates. So why are you complaining about, trying to find exotic class items with the exact rolls you want with this farm? Like, isn't it the same thing? Like, it's not the same thing. And if you were kind of really involved in both games, you would kind of get the difference where, the thing that's 6% that I was talking about in the First Descendant, it's called an energy activator. It's the most valuable item in the entire game because it lets you permanently add like 20, 30 slots to either a character or a gun. You only use it once on a character or a gun, and that's it. It's an incredibly rare form of currency and the most valuable thing in the game. It is not one thing for one hyper specific build out of 40 builds you could be doing. So it's different. And also there's a contrast in terms of Destiny's, range of how it is to farm things is all over the place. Like turning in a bunch of engrams to get 5 red borders and then crafting something and then auto leveling it to your god roll in 10 seconds. Like that's one end. But then you have this class item farm with 60 combinations of things that can take hundreds and hundreds of runs to even get maybe the one thing you need on this one item that works for like this one build. And it's like nothing else in the game. So that's why I think it's miles different than really any other chase that exists in Destiny, to the point where, like, yes, that does need to be changed. And no, it's not really the same situation as the First Descendant. So I don't think Destiny has really figured out a way to encourage long-term investment in your character. Like at best, it's just kind of formulating, new builds as time goes on, which can be fun. But in terms of like you feeling so much stronger, it's tough these days. And yeah, I'm certainly willing to give Destiny credit that it's a very old game. And yes, it has had to rely on power creep to a certain extent, because at a certain point you just add so much stuff to the mix that it's very hard to keep pushing things forward. So I'm not saying this is entirely Bungie's fault or the game's fault. It is in part a matter of age, but I am sort of explaining why the First Descendant feels fresh in that realm, when at a time when I want something to feel fresh, because Destiny did just end this giant saga. And I'm not going I'm not stopping to play Destiny, but what I am doing or I'm not stopping playing Destiny. What I am doing is logging in at reset, doing the new story stuff, maybe getting, a crafted pattern of the new weapon that gets introduced, which I've not even done for the new ones this week. And then going back to the First Descendant. And so it's like 3 hours of Destiny maybe or something. And then 35 hours, 45 hours of the First Descendant elsewhere. And First Descendant, you can do anything from like hyper challenging boss fights you really got to pay attention to, or just like the most passive kind of brain turn off farming, you can possibly do. And Destiny did, it's interesting because the class item farm did sort of have that to a certain extent with the chess loop for the class item, which was very mindless. But then they just nerfed the chess loop because of macros, so it's not even a thing anymore. The First Descendant just offers a really wide range of farming options, of challenges, of things you are building. Whereas in Destiny, I don't think you're building towards anything anymore for the most part, whether that's in terms of your character's power or a specific, weapon that is a noticeable power increase from others. Like that's very, very rare, I'd say. So again, it's a strange situation. And like my downtime with Destiny, usually it's like I'll go and play something completely different and invest in that, single player games or whatever happens to be out. But in this case, there's not really much like that out right now. So it's the First Descendant, another, live game that certainly has many, many, many problems. But I think it does have one of the most compelling endgame setups I've seen. And you can say it mirrors Warframe, which I know it does, but I also like the fact that everyone is sort of on the ground floor with First Descendant, and I do not have people in there that have been playing for 7 years that are, have 50 times the stuff as me. Like, I am significantly invested in this game, so I'm one of the, higher end people in terms of the total amount of stuff I've collected or something, at least for now. I don't see this lasting forever. I'm probably going to burn out on this at some point. I don't think it's going to produce the level of constant content for its live ambitions that Destiny does, like not even close. It does get exhausting after a certain point when you've run the same thing 100 times and you can't get that 1% thing that you're trying to get. So there's certainly the potential for burnout there, but it is pretty crazy that I've put this much time into it in such a short period of time, and I am still finding it compelling. I'm gonna finish my work today and play First Descendant, through the afternoon for all of my gaming time. So I haven't hit that point quite yet. And then it launches an update in 2 days for, a new character and other stuff to go on. So that's sort of why I'm just drifting from Destiny right now. And it's because of the First Descendant and Destiny, things that Destiny is doing or is not doing. I've talked about kind of Echoes as a whole and how episodes are working, and that I think there's a lot of problems there. But it is interesting to compare and contrast these games, and like, don't say they're not totally different. They're occupying the same space. It is totally valid to compare and contrast them. It's difficult because I'm not just telling Destiny like, oh, you must adopt the stolen Warframe model to like be compelling, but I wish it would work more toward long-term investments, based on in terms of the things we can invest in for our characters, for our weapons, and I just don't think it's there right now. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think. I know at least some of you are playing First Descendant, and I will make some more First Descendant videos, but there's not anything that's like super, other than like build guides and things that I think other people are going to do way better than me. I'm mostly using other people's build guides on YouTube because I'm not that smart at crafting my own things, but that's part of the fun. People recommend really good builds, and it's a lot of fun to farm them, try them out for yourself, and things like that. So yeah, let me know how you're feeling about Destiny, how you're feeling about the First Descendant in the comments, and we'll chat about it. Yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.